So I was thinking about this. We oftentimes, I'm reflecting on growing up as a young boy, and I've seen, I believe, enough instances in my life where a lot of parents, a lot of guardians, a lot of family members, older siblings make this mistake. And a lot of times siblings make that mistakes and parents make that mistake and guardians make that mistake because the mistake was also made with them. I'm referring to how we raise young men, how young men are brought up. Oftentimes, for a young man, it is difficult for him to show any sense of emotion. Like once that young man gets past maybe 2, 3, 4 years old, whatever the case is, and starts to, approach teenage years or whatever the case is, or sometimes even years before that, that young man now has to start to become very conscious of what is it to show emotion, what happens when you show what might be considered too much emotion. You start hearing stuff from like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, right? Stop acting like a girl. Why are you being so emotional? Are you a female? Female are the only ones who are emotional, or this, or whatever the case is. And so, even from a young age, as you're growing up, men begin to question their sense of security as a young man, or even before you could say a young man, as someone who's approaching what it is to be considered a young man, as a child, right? Sometimes people are having to try to figure out their sense of security as a man, and what it is to be masculine. It starts to be challenged a lot of times for men from a very young age. And so sometimes what happens then, as this continues, we are then, as people, surprised when you get into a relationship with someone who was subjected to that through their upbringing, their home, their whatever the case is. And then folks are surprised when they get into relationships with men like that who do not know how to show their emotion. They don't know how to express emotions to anyone, or even in romantic situations, because they were always taught to suppress how they feel. They're always taught to not show emotion or whatever the case is. And so now when they find themselves in relationships, they can't show or express emotion because it was always seen as something that was weak. It was always a symbol of weakness. And even though they may feel something for you, if you're somebody out there dating one of those men, they may feel something for you, but they may not be able to know, or they just don't know how to show it.